All right, Chris Popper here in Bangor. I'm joined by UMaine field hockey coach Josette Babineau. Coach, welcome again, as we do every week for the weekly coaches show. And mixed results this past weekend. 1-1. You had the big win against UVM to open America East play on Friday. 3-1 victory, and then almost came back from a 2-0 deficit and lost to Fairfield University 2-1 on the road on Sunday. If you would kind of tell us what the weekend was like.
Yeah. Well, the Vermont game was our first conference game, so it was. I always think that that's a big win, right? No matter who you're playing, you're opening with. Vermont is always a program that they're not gonna quit. We got off to a really early start against them. Had a very good first half. We're able to score 3 goals and get ahead, and then, Vermont had a good second half. They had a lot of opportunities in the second half to get back into the game, and we were able to hold them off and got the victory. So I thought that was a very, very good performance by our players. In the first half, our offensive production was very good, and in the second half, our defensive productive was good again. So I thought that was a good win. So happy to get started with conference play. With a win, and now we'll have like our second conference game this weekend. And then the Fairfield game, I'm going to be honest, like that weekend of the schedule, last weekend, I guess, of the schedule was, for me as a coach, a weekend that I was a bit like fearful of, just because being home on a Friday and having to travel, that distance on Saturday and
Right.
then, play the game Sunday and come back. I definitely was, wanted our team to be successful in that game. We had a little bit of like tough travel, I guess, on Saturday too and into Sunday, but we played well enough to be able to, win the game. We probably should have scored first, and that would have changed the momentum of the game. And we didn't capitalize on our opportunities early. And then when they scored, it always just changes the momentum enough, and we started struggling with our offensive execution. And even though we had good statistics in the game, we just
You
it
outshot
wasn't in
them.
our favor. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't. I think the players did a good job at the end to try to give themselves opportunities to come back and tie the game. The effort was definitely there, but just fell short.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed kind of unlucky. I mean, you outshot them 12-9, 9 shots on goal to 7 shots on goal. Penalty corners. I mean, that fourth quarter when you were it was 2-0 at that point. You had 5 penalty corners to just their one, and you were able to convert one. You just couldn't convert on the others,
Yeah.
and a little bit unlucky there.
Yeah, we had ten offensive penalty corners, I think, in the game, and we
Yeah.
converted on one. That's still like a pretty low percentage of execution. And then they had 4, so I thought we defended quite well, but they converted on 2 out of the 4. So just that stat line alone was enough to be the difference maker, in the game.
Right, right. Rosary doing another excellent job in goal. I mean, she's done very well this season.
She has. I think that in either save percentage or some of the category, one of those categories, I think she's like 6th in the nation.
Wow.
So doing quite well. And then in conference, I was just talking with our sports information director, and even though we have not all played like equal number of teams or games and not the same opponents, our goals against average is actually the best in the conference right now at 1.45. So I think that, she's had definitely solid performances. And then I think our team defensively, it's been an emphasis of the season. I think we're a pretty good defensive team. And sometimes it's just the offensive execution, that makes a
Yeah.
difference in these games.
Well, you think if you're holding teams, to that average of 1.45, it, it it's just getting that second goal is
Right.
that, it's like score early, score often, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
vote early, vote often, and
Right.
so now this weekend, kind of a little, not a break, but it's just one game. And that's probably beneficial, I would think, as you get midway through the season, to kind of have a
Yeah.
light weekend.
Yeah, I think it'll be like a challenge to not have a Friday game and to only have the Sunday. We talk about it as a team. Sometimes there's like some frustration when you have like a Sunday loss and you have to like wait the week
Wait.
before you take the field again, so but definitely as a coaching staff we're happy to have the extra time. It's a good week for us to just continue to work on things and to have additional time with our players. I was really impressed with the team yesterday. Many of them came out early, took the field early before practice, continuing to work on different parts of their games and, taking that responsibility on themselves to put in some extra time this week. And I think it's a good week for them to be able to do that.
So when you say it's the difficulty or the challenge, so how do you keep the team motivated? Or, I mean, how do you, without having that Friday game, do you work extra hard Friday? Do you scrimmage, or what are you doing to um keep the team sharp before the game against UC Davis on Sunday?
Yeah, we just our strength coach just kind of changed the week up for us a little bit. With Michelle, our associate head coach, with what the training loads will look like in each practice. The practices were designed to be pretty competitive, yes, or the drills to be pretty competitive. So we'll probably continue with that. We're at least they're getting, it's not just one drill that we're working on one particular thing, but they're competing against each other in some of these drills to keep the intensity, a little bit higher.
Right.
Also just to continue to work on being able to execute, under pressure, even though it's just the pressure of each other. And then we typically lift on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but we just shifted it to Wednesday and Thursday this week. So it'll be Friday. It'll be an additional day of needing to keep the intensity high, and then Saturday will be a lower intensity day for us. I think mentally it's probably a good break too, just for the players to only have one game to focus on. It was a different challenge last weekend. We talked about it yesterday in our team meeting. You go from playing a conference game where the energy has to be super high, and then
Right.
there was a lot of excitement for the Vermont game, to a non-conference game where you're probably expected to have a win in that game, you know what I mean? But the energy is just a little bit different because it's not a conference game, right? So that we didn't handle maybe that part as well as we should have, but it'll come up again because we'll have some other weekends that'll have the same challenge.
So you play UC Davis on Sunday at noon, and it's Faculty and Staff Appreciation Day. UC Davis, do they play Friday or Saturday? And are they playing at UMaine, or are they traveling
They're traveling.
from somewhere in Boston? So,
Yeah, they're traveling. They're playing on Friday and traveling here, probably practice here Saturday, and then they'll play us on Sunday and travel back. Incredibly challenging
oh yeah, for the West
for
Coast
them.
team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then you play them at noon, so that's like 9 o'clock in the morning their time. So they're just
right.
waking up. So you got to score early and take
Yeah.
advantage of the fact that they're still asleep.
Right. The game is at noon because of their flights right back, so they ask for a different earlier game time. So yeah.
Yeah. And then the following weekend you're back down into Rhode Island and Massachusetts, and again that is a America East and then a non-conference game. So you've got to learn from last week's lessons to take to next week.
Right. Yeah. Same. We'll be on the road. It'll be a longer road trip for us. I mean, that's okay when it's longer. When we're on the road, things are pretty like focused. I think just last weekend with it being so short, was a little bit more difficult.
And at least it next weekend you're down in Smithfield, Rhode Island, and then on that Sunday you play at Massachusetts. So it's not like you have to go further south and then come back on
Right.
that second day. It's like when I go up
Yeah.
to do the winter and we're playing Caribou and Presque Isle. I always like to play Caribou first rather than playing Presque Isle because then I don't have to. I'm in Presque Isle, then I go to Caribou, and then I'm
Yeah.
passing back to come back. So
Yeah. We
yeah.
have a weekend in between that. It's the Lowell Holy Cross
Oh
weekend.
yes. Yeah, I'm
Um,
looking too far ahead. Right.
yeah, so that Lowell weekend, like that's like a split weekend because we're at Lowell and
Yeah.
then we're home. You know what I mean? Against
Right.
it's the opposite split weekend.
Yeah, and then that Sunday, October 13th is a cancer awareness game, which I always think is so important when our female athletes recognize breast cancer awareness, and of course October's breast cancer awareness, and anything that we can do to make sure people are aware of the importance of mammograms when they're above a certain age, and self checkups every month. I mean, that's just so key because unfortunately we all know somebody
Yeah.
who has had or has breast cancer. So I think that's commend you guys and just such an important thing. What do you know about UC Davis other than the fact that they're road warriors and
Yeah.
are going to be tired and they're all got frequent flyer miles up the wazoo?
Yeah. I think they've improved program over last year to this year. I know that they've had some competitive games. The games seem to be closer in like the scores. Maybe they haven't been getting like the outcomes yet, but I know that their games have been competitive. So I anticipate it to be, similar to Vermont, where it's like any conference game. You're just gonna have to work, and it's gonna have to be a consistent effort, throughout the game.
You mentioned how the players were out early yesterday. The weather's been fantastic, hasn't it? I mean,
It
you
really
haven't
has.
had, knock on wood, right? I mean, you haven't had to be outside or play in any kind of
Right.
nasty weather. I mean, it's just
No.
been, maybe if anything, it's been too warm.
Yeah, no, it's we had one practice last week that was in the rain, but it was a light rain. It wasn't cold, so it was fine. And then yeah, the weather this week just looks terrific still. So, I mean, the longer we go into October, I'm not complaining if the weather's
Right?
good.
Without having to bring out that wet weather or cold weather gear, that's all good, right?
Right. If I'm still in shorts, so I'm liking it.
All right, coach. Well, again, UMaine field hockey back in action this Sunday, October 6th. An early start game is at noon, so come on out, support the Black Bears, and then the following weekend at UMass Lowell on Friday, and then hosting Holy Cross on Sunday the 13th. And make sure you have your pink on for that day.
Thanks a lot for your time.
All
I
right,
appreciate it.
coach. Oh, hold on. I got a dog trying to get in my way. All right, coach. Have a great week.
All right, you too.